course, it's always good news when things move in the right direction. What's changed from October to November?
Nothing substantially so, but the BCI is being driven by seasonal factors right now. It is being influenced by the potential of greater trade over the festive season. We would have expected to see a lot stronger improvement in the BCI over this period. We would have preferred to see the BCI a lot closer to 90. Our best estimate for when the BCI would breach 90 unfortunately has to now move to 2011, and even there we can't be too precise as to when that's going to happen. It's unlikely to happen in the first few months of 2011, so perhaps from the midpoint to the later portion of 2011. The breaching of the level of 90 is extremely important for an economy in recovery. That is the level at which we can be assured that the recovery is progressing at a reasonable level of strength. But to date, it's been elusive.
And in that case, what's holding the BCI back at this stage? Why are we not getting to that 90 level?
A number of factors, including low domestic activity, broadly speaking, low activity in terms of South Africa being involved in global markets, and to us that's where one of the key drivers of economic growth domestically.
Are we talking about two-way trade here?
Correct. We're involved, but we're not substantially involved or sufficiently involved. And there's also, of course, just a lack of momentum on the consumer side as well, and that's been dogging us for a while. The consumer confidence index has shown a slight uptick, but our models in terms of retail trade are not hugely optimistic. They've improved only marginally, where in fact around this time of year one would typically expect to see dramatic improvements from September all the way to December. We're not seeing that. We're seeing very marginal improvements. So there are some concerns that this is not going to be the festive season that we hoped it would be, and I think a bigger concern stems from the fact that we could carry over this dampening of activity into the new year. That is our greatest concern at this point.
We had Reserve Bank Governor Jill Marcus speaking yesterday at the Reserve Bank's AGM, highlighting the problem that Europe posed to South Africa. And you were talking about two-way trade. Of course, the European Union, still one of our biggest trading partners, and we have seen trade falling from that end. So, I mean, our fortunes really hinge on what's happening globally at this stage, don't they, Neren?
Absolutely. It hinges on what's happening globally, and it hinges on our ability to bring back the benefits of global trade when we are able to realize those to the domestic economy and thereby generate greater economic activity domestically. We've been advocating to our members that they look at markets that they previously haven't dealt with, new markets, Romania, obviously China and India, but one doesn't also want to piggyback too much on the China and India phenomena right now, because many other countries are doing that, and you want to really diversify your trade portfolio amongst other emerging market economies in Europe and so on. But the conventional markets in Europe and America is not sufficient to drive the level of activity we require. So we've been facilitating opportunities for our members to go into other markets, and of course Africa has been a strong point of focus for us for the last 2 years as well.
You do highlight a few concerns in your release today, Ireland's debt situation. So we've kind of covered that with Europe and the possible contagion effects there. You also highlight the new growth plan out of the Minister for Economic Development, Ibrahim Patel. Do you think there's anything in there that is going to take us to that 90 level if it is applied to the South African economy?
At this point, we treat Minister Patel's document as a basis for negotiation. So you see that government has clearly presented their thinking on certain issues, but we see that as just the opening for us to present our thoughts on those issues. And we by no means see this as a final document. We see a long process towards negotiation over the next few months, and towards an agreement that is palatable to government, business and labour. Labour as well has presented concerns on a number of areas in the document. For us, it's not just about the principles themselves, but also about the inherent contradictions in the document, which we have to iron out jointly. The degree to which we're able to deliver on this document does depend on the degree to which the social compact between government, business and labour is able to agree on a way forward. And that's usually quite a challenge, and it's usually the subject of substantial negotiation. But on this growth plan, and given the challenges that we face, we need to accelerate those processes, and we need all parties to come into those negotiations with a very strong mind towards good faith and towards accelerating returns to our economy.
Take us into 2011, how you see the economy going forward, because you've already pointed out that we're not likely to get to that 90 level on the BCI until well into 2011. Do you see us creating jobs next year? Do you see the economy recovering? How are you seeing it at this stage?
We've just completed a survey of our members, and unfortunately that survey was substantially on the negative side. There was very little on the positive side in terms of economic trends. What was positive to see was that our members do acknowledge that they have a strong responsibility in terms of creating jobs, and when they look at areas in which they require support or in which the business environment has to develop more substantially, they've picked on areas that indicate that responsibility, and those areas being the education system and skills development. In previous years, the #1 item on that agenda has always been crime and corruption. This year it's receded to #2 because business is taking very seriously its role and responsibility in terms of stimulating job creation, both in terms of its own realized responsibility as well as in terms of the responsibility that government has reminded us of in the growth plan.